Ryan, what we're going to do today is talk about getting started with an online business. I love that in your YouTube, which I'll pull up here for everyone to see, but in your YouTube, it's like I'm helping you start an e-commerce business, online business. It's just like super nice, clear statement on your YouTube channel, and then your videos reflect that. So there's nobody better to talk to, I think, than how do I get my either freelance or my online business or my e-commerce or my Etsy or website or whatever it is. So we talk a lot about design. You know that. We talk a lot about how to make good designs on Kittl, how to make the best merch designs on Kittl, but we don't talk a ton, at least on our channel yet, about this kind of back end stuff. Like, what does it take to run a business? How do I set realistic goals? Like, how do I grow my online business? Stuff like that. We're not really talking about that a ton. So that's what I wanted to talk to you today about. And so I figured if we kind of give this little mini masterclass webinar together, a good place to start, I think, might be talking about some reasons someone would want to start an online business. So especially I'm thinking of beginners in mind, like, hey, if this fits you, then this is your call to maybe start your online business or your e-commerce shop or whatever it is. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And thanks for having me back for another coffee with Kittl, by the way. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited for today. What's funny is while you were asking the question, I was just thinking how different would a lot of our lives be if how they say we're the average of the 5 closest people to us. If we all had friends that were interested in starting businesses, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, man, but I don't have friends that are interested in starting businesses. They're normal people that just want to go to their 9 to 5 and then come back
they're
and
9 to 5, and I'm the one that's really pressing, dude, why don't you just start a YouTube channel? That's me. I'm the person that's like, why don't you just start a YouTube channel? Why, dude, what are you're doing this thing, film it. You know what I mean?
For real, man. And a lot of times it is just that little inclination to, we may be experts, we have subject matter expertise in some area that people would be interested in hearing us talk about and teach, but it may just take that, day or two or a week, whatever, of a little bit of stepping outside your comfort zone to get a camera, get a microphone, set up a YouTube channel. And I think just to start, to get that push to start your online business, it's going to require maybe stepping outside the comfort zone. And it's so easy to live within those confines where we only do what's expected of us. And that may be I don't know about you, man, but my parents, they laid out how life was supposed to be for me. And it wasn't really a life that I was interested in living, in kind of how I saw them living and me having to kind of recreate their life, even though it was stuff that worked, just go get the 9 to 5, go to, higher education and
raise up
life
the ranks. Yeah. Go up the ranks, get this house, get this retirement plan. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think everybody needs to find their own motivation, that life that was laid out for me by my parents, who I'm not hating on them, I think I did, well for myself and I owe them a lot, but I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. A lot of it for me was as simple as I didn't want to wake up early. Both my parents woke up way too early and I'm not a morning person. So it was I needed a little bit of freedom in that regard, because I dreaded the prospect of that. And then as I grew up and had to get a 9 to 5 job, I realized that I hate traffic. My brain obsesses over how much time I'm spending in the car in bumper to bumper traffic in Northern Virginia that could be used doing anything else, man. So those little things were my motivating factors to do more. You know what I mean? Everybody just has to find what it is inside of themselves that it's going to push them to leave their comfort zone, because it's not like you can't run these businesses from your comfort zone. Print on demand is a pretty comfortable business, or can be.
Sure.
But that first step, the first few steps, that can be what's difficult. So you really got to find what's going to, motivate you to do that.
Yeah. I really like how you're using the word, your motivation. I had the question posed as reasons someone would leave, and I'm thinking of oh, I want to travel more, or I want to be my own boss. I feel like those are the super kind of kitschy answers that you get.
Right.
But you've already reminded me. Yesterday, I had a wonderful conversation with a friend of mine that runs Retro Supply Co. I'm actually going to have him on the channel soon, just talking about how he built that kind of retro supply empire, resources, fonts, Procreate brushes, all these kinds of things. And when I was talking to him, and of course, I don't want to give all of his story away because he's going to tell it himself, but he was telling me man, Retro Supply Co. was just this little idea that I had in my head that I was never going to do anything with until like I kind of hit rock bottom. Like I had a baby on the way and like I was drinking too much and like all this stuff. And he was like, the thought of not being able to provide for my daughter literally turned the thing on in my brain, like immediately stopped drinking, immediately was getting up at like 5 in the morning and working on this little like e-commerce shop and just like constantly all day just going into that. That was his motivating factor, right? That's not like he wasn't like, oh, I want to be my own boss. It was like, I have to get my stuff together and this is what I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Like that kind of motivating factor. So it could be something as simple, like I'm saying, is just like, I want to be my own boss. Absolutely. If you're, oh, my little thing is like putting the thumbs up thing.
That's pretty cool.
Um, like it could be as simple as like, I want to travel more, totally fine. Or all the way to a more familial aspect where it's like, no, I need to spend more time with my family. Like I actually have to do that. You know what I mean? And we're all in different stages of life. He was in a different stage of life than like you and I are, for example. But I like how you put the word motivation to it. I think that's what would make someone get out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that really quickly, I think like you got to be careful of this is my personal opinion, so could be completely wrong, but if you're just motivated by like superficial things, like let's be
Right.
real, it's you can get a lot of views advertising, that you're going to
Sure.
teach people how to become multimillionaires and so that they can buy a Lamborghini and fly in a private jet,
Yeah.
right? We all have seen those like
Right.
ridiculous videos. And chances are the only person that's got a chance of living that lifestyle is the person selling you the information, right? So just
It's
always
true.
be, mindful of who's delivering the message. And like, I don't know, it's tough to know, right? Because it's like I'm a talking head on a screen. I always say, I am a talking head. I'm one of many. I'm doing what
Yeah.
I can here to show you that I do know what I'm talking about, like publishing income reports and that stuff. But like, at the end of the day, it's like you're listening to people talk, but you need to implement this stuff and build your own business and go on your own path. And, we all have different reasons for wanting to do it. But I love that idea of just like having a family. And yeah, like I think I'm like a very long-term thinker, which of course is like, I think usually a good thing to have when it comes to business. So like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking about my future unborn kids, you know what I mean? Like I want that for them. A lot of the investments that I
Right.
make like are literally for their, like I think of like my kids, you know what I mean? And that's what
Mm.
leads me to make like some solid, well, I don't know, it's all relative, but what I
Yeah.
think are some solid investment choices, stuff like that, and motivate me to make cash flow to make those investments.
Yeah, and I think I mean, absolutely wonderful point about being cautious and being aware of the stuff that you might be getting sold online and listening to this kind of superlative type things like, oh, just to be a millionaire. You know what I mean? Like I think that might be a wrong goal, a wrong motivating factor. I mean, yeah, everybody wants and could use more money. Probably that's fine. Like if that's the thing that you want to go to, but like I think where you and I are kind of pitching it as more of like, okay, well, let's attach this thing to like a passion. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you hate the idea of actually putting work in to build a business and all of you're thinking about is money, then that is going to be like kind of a terrible ride, I think.
Yep.
Like, maybe you'll get the money. I don't know. Maybe you will. It, like, depends on how much money you have lying around to just kind of throw at ads, maybe. But like, I think if the quicker and sooner you can put it to a passion, um, and people can see that and care about it, I think maybe easier time you have kind of building this online business, which kind of leads me into this next question. I had put here in like an asterisk, if this is relevant, ask this. And I think it is because you mentioned already, like, who you see online, how you're doing your research, how you're learning. Obviously, I mean, I think it would be disingenuous for us to say like there are absolutely zero upfront costs to starting or building a business. I do believe that you need to invest a little bit. For example, even if you're doing something like print on demand, yes, Kittl has a free version, but you're going to be very limited in trying to, create high resolution designs for print on demand. So there's a subscription there. So, but I'm thinking more specifically because we talk about PLD all the time. Building a business, learning, you have to build your skill set. You have to potentially purchase some courses. You have to start a website and have a cost for your domain and stuff that you have to kind of get your ducks in a row. Do you have an idea of categories of upfront costs that someone needs to be aware of when they're starting to build this? And it could be you could just say like, oh, for me, it was these three things is what I was going to invest in. Because for everybody, it's different. For me, it was YouTube. So I invested in a $1,000 masterclass that I paid off over a very long time. I had my Squarespace site so that I could drive traffic to my Squarespace. So that's like, I don't know, $100 something a year or something like that. And then I think I did like a little bit of money in like social ads, but like a very few. So those are like the 3 things for me. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm just kind of thinking about this upfront cost thing that people might be thinking about.
No, I mean, when I'm thinking about it, I think of so much of it is of just business in general is like a mental game, like mental gymnastics. And so much of it I think stems from like our relationship with money, because everybody's got a
Okay.
unique personal relationship with the concept of money, right? Like like what is money? You know what I mean? Those are one of those things I ponder all the time, right?
Right.
Um, if you start a business, I think one of the first things you can do to really benefit you is actually establish a business entity, right? Most likely in the United States, where, you know, we'll be selling on US markets. If it's print on demand, you know, you want to prioritize like Amazon and Etsy. If I had to pick two, with that business account, like you have your business tax ID, and then you can attach a business bank account to it, right? And have a business credit card. And now it's like in your brain, it almost like establishes a separate entity, right? Like at least that's how I like to think about it. So
Okay.
if, you know, because I may not want to sign up with a like subscription for something that would help me with my business on my personal account. Like maybe some people battle with these like internal mental things, right? But if it's a business, it's kind of like, okay, that money's over here and
Mm,
I want to see that number go up in that account. So I'm going to spend a little to make more than I put out. And I think those little mental battles can really help you get over the hump. You know, not every that it might not resonate with everybody. Like I know people that have no problem sign up for new subscriptions to help their business, but I know that helped me. It helped me with like my understanding of money. You know what I mean? Going into a bank and seeing like two separate accounts and, you know,
I
what
see.
what is funneling into the business one, what's coming out of it. And I was just gonna say, even though it's not related to the question you asked, but it kind of is like I think of money almost in terms of like dollars per day because it helps inform my decision making process, right? Like before I left my 9 to 5 job, I knew exactly how much money I made per day. You know what I mean? And it can be as simple as, you know, and whether you want to factor in taxes or not, it's up to you. But you can take your salary and just divide it by 365. Okay, now figure out your dollars per day and then think, if I want to replace this job, how many dollars per day do I need to make on my own? You know what I mean? And it
Right.
puts things in perspective. Like, because my friends used to make fun of me when I first started print on demand, talking about making $5, you know, from a t-shirt sale in a day. They're like, cool, dude, like $5. Wow. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm gonna multiply this. Just watch, you know, there's nothing stopping me from turning 5 into 100. You know, it's there. Like the amount of effort for me to change that, or you know, fulfill the orders, I guess you could say, it doesn't change, right? Because it's automated fulfillment. So what I really need to focus on is just kind of the iteration of the research, design, upload.
Hmm.
And you know, that perspective helped me get where I am, you know, because I wasn't caught up in the fact that it was $5 a day. I knew I could take that much higher. And I think if you can see things and like it may not resonate with everybody, but me, dollars per day worked, understanding where I was at, then it's like, okay, now I have a target for replacing it. And then also if I'm going to pay for a subscription that's, you know, a startup fee for the business or, you know, a tool that I'm using regularly like Kittl, you can literally divide that, you know, by the subscription cost per month, figure out what you're paying per day. You know what I mean? Is it like less than $1 per day? Okay, cool. That
Right.
doesn't feel
Okay.
nearly as
I
bad.
see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see what you mean. I haven't thought about it in that in the daily sort of thing. I think most of people look at their monthly balance and they say like, dude, what the heck? You know, like my domain fee, my email domain fee, my subscriptions to Adobe and whatever else. And you're like, dude, this is like $100 and some dollars. You know, it's like, but if you divide that per day and then you say like, oh shoot, well, my one font that I sold on Creative Market or whatever is more than that one day. You know what I mean? It's like if you think about it in the daily term, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was also coming at it from the angle. I thought you were gonna jump into this too. Was like time cost, like time investment.
Exactly. That would have been
Like,
the second half of my response, but it
okay,
was
well,
getting
hey,
lengthy.
you go into it then, because that's where I was gonna tackle. So you go into how you think about this time investment.
Yeah, like again, this is just kind of like insights into my inner monologue, man. Like the older me that was working, I worked 9 to 5 teach as a web developer, and then I taught web development. So 2 nights a week, I would go to my, you know, alma mater and teach like 3, you know, sections per semester, right? So I mean, dude, I grinded back then, you know, but
Right.
like I didn't lose sight of, like I said, take your salary, divide by 365. And then if you want to figure out like how much time you are actually spending, because if you say per day, well, you're counting Saturday and Sunday, but you're not really working on those days. So you could even get
Right.
down to like what you're really making per hour. So I would, and this is like simple math you can do on your, you know, if I'm on Windows, I literally tap the Windows key and then you can just do the math really quickly. So it's like I could
Right.
do this math in 10 seconds and be like, all right, I'm making this much per hour. You know what I mean? And understand like literally what my time is worth. And again, that
Yeah.
helps you make informed decisions. One of the worst things you can do is like, I don't know, chase the dream, listen to all the talking heads, take in all this info. Number one, not act on it. But number two, if you are going to act on it, like make sure that what you're attempting to build is in alignment with your goals. Like if you want to be owning a private jet and stuff like that, like you're probably not going to get that through selling print on demand, but you might get there through starting a business like Kittl, you know what I mean? And being like the owner of Kittl. But like, just be realistic. Like, don't lie to yourself about, where you're spending your time and your action and your effort on your business and what your ultimate goal is. They should be in alignment to some extent.
Yeah. And I also come back to the passion here as well is not directly correlated to like, oh, I just want to have a private jet. That's not really a passion. That's like I just want to own that. You know what I mean? Like that's like
Superficial. Those are
yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. But I kind of think about it in like when I was going heavy into design and going to start YouTube, which is definitely what led me here to talking to you on this screen, is I have got to spend as much time as possible. I was also doing 9 to 5, but then I was also in this YouTube class figuring out how to just upload, get better with every upload. Then I had to kind of like learn how to edit, myself. So like there was like, but that was the passion, man. It didn't matter. Like, yeah, it was some late hours into the evening. I think I remember you and I were talking about one day when you were starting on YouTube and you were like, yeah, it was like 1 a.m. or something, but I was like, have to get this video done or something. I think I remember something.
My
like
first video, yeah.
Yeah.
I was up till 2 in the morning because I said I am not going to sleep until I get my first video published. And that
Yeah,
was that. It took like 10 hours or something.
Exactly. And I had that same kind of mindset too. I was like, I'm going to do a video a week at least, just to start. And like, we're going to see what happens. I'm going to send it to friends, like see if they enjoyed watching it, see how I can get better. And that's just like, yeah, for me, that was like the passion because I knew the kind of revenue that YouTube could bring from like, a certain amount of views. And then I also learned like what other kind of extraneous revenue it could bring through like affiliate marketing and then like having a business on your website. And so for me, yes, there was some financial cost, but it was like inconsequential to the time cost that I was willing to spend. I was like, you know what I mean? Especially if you have a 9 to 5, because it's like, yeah, like you're saying, like you're not really working on Saturday and Sunday. It was like, okay, well, you could probably work half that day and like make more than whatever your your salary divided by 365. So that's kind of how I was. The more strong suit for me was like the time investment. And I think that's maybe not what some people realize, but if the passion is there for what you're trying to do, it's like it kind of brings some fun back into it. Cause there were times in my 9 to 5 where I'm just not having fun, man. Like not having fun, like developing these websites. I'm like, dude, I could just develop websites that I want on my own and probably make more. So yeah, I think when you put this passion into it, the time cost and the financial cost, they don't like cancel each other out, but like, I don't know, it makes a lot more sense. And it's like, first of all, way less than I spent on like college education, just to be fair.
Well, yeah, exactly. On a relative basis, that's absolutely worth mentioning.
Yeah, like I think about that all the time, and it's like, yeah, I use some of my degree for sure. I mean, it was in English, so yes, I do a fair amount of writing. I write scripts, I write emails, I write, you know what I mean? Like I use a fair amount of it, but like the YouTube education that I have is not from my 4-year degree,
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, and as someone who taught like college level, you know what I mean, and did like a master's degree and stuff, like it's tough to keep up those curriculums. Like I was in IT, it's tough to keep those up to date with like
Right.
the latest, greatest stuff. You know what I mean? So if you're serious about, I don't know, we're talking about like owning a business. So if you're serious about business, making your own money, like you got to be willing to pivot and like look forward, skate where the puck is going, not necessarily chase the stuff that, worked yesterday. Not that like you shouldn't be doing the stuff that we know works, like the proven stuff, but having
Sure.
that like forward looking mentality, I think is really valuable. So
Now, I think what a lot of people are going to they're going to come to this point where they've either done what we've said or what they've found somewhere that's helpful. It doesn't have to be us, seriously. But they've started something. Let's just assume that, okay? Like I think that is probably the biggest and hardest hurdle is like getting the thing set up. So whether that is a print on demand shop and you get lost in the weeds and you're like, oh my God, how do I connect this to this? And like, oh my gosh, I got to do a product listing. Okay, whatever. Let's say you got to that point, or you set up your own Shopify site. again, like my friend I referenced starting up Retro Supply Co. and like learning how to set up Shopify, put listings on there. Now we're at this point where whatever your online business or whatever your e-commerce business looks like, maybe it's like selling courses, I don't know, whatever it is, you insert the blank. The question then that we're going to have, that people are going to have, I ask myself this daily: how do I grow this? Like, how do I get the growth? Like, where do I go from basically nothing to getting either views or sales or traction? And there's a lot of different things that factor into this. I mean, I have some written down, we can kind of like break down, but I'm just kind of thinking for you, because you have several businesses, in I'll just call them businesses, but you have your course, you have your YouTube, you have your print on demand shop. I mean, you're the whole entrepreneur package. So for you, maybe this can enlighten viewers, like, where were you when you got to that point where you're like, okay, I've started this thing. What does growth look like?
Yeah, and this is gonna be one of those things that will evolve into the future, right? Because like what worked, in the past maybe stopped working, and
Right.
then there's the new thing. And for me, it was applying my knowledge of like being a regular internet user, right? Like being a web developer, kind of having
Okay.
some experience optimizing for Google. I think just being a very logical thinker, honestly, is gonna help you here. Like
Okay.
I think of what is the number one website in the world, right? It's Google. So okay, I need to rank on Google when people type in X, Y, and Z into the search bar. What's the number two search engine in the world? Oh, YouTube. Okay, cool. I need to rank there as well. Just keep it
Got it.
simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm trying to get my message out to people, you know what I mean? Like about, hey, I started this business. Let me show you how. If it's selling t-shirts, well, where do people go to buy t-shirts, right? Like in some of my YouTube videos, I just did one last week. I don't know if it gets old seeing me do it, but like I'll go to Google and just type in like the name of a product and then the product type. You know what I mean? Like whatever niche space shirt. And then I just look at the results and I
What
say
comes
like,
up?
okay, we need to sell
Yeah.
here, we need to sell here, we need to sell here, we need to sell here. Just keep it simple, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely like a great place to start, is like, especially if you're stuck. Because I'm thinking of the people that are stuck, because there will be. I mean, it'll happen. You're like, oh,
How
I
do you
have this.
define stuck, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Is it a
But like,
perspective thing? Like you started last week and you're not feeling successful 1 week later, or you know what I mean?
true, true. But I think it's like, I think it's the more realistic thing is that, like, okay, I have this thing. Where am I? Yeah, I think it's a mental hurdle thing, because it's like, I've done the practical to dos. Okay, those are those are the logistical to dos. Like, I've set up the store. I have a domain. I've published this course or whatever it is. And then it's like, I feel like people are just like, oh, what am I supposed to do? And so I love the advice of keeping it simple, because that's not what people are going to jump to. I think they're going to jump to ads. I think they're going to jump to, I have to have a bunch of followers on social media. So I don't know if you have some talking points to talk into those things and how they correlate, because I don't think they're not helpful. I don't think it's unhelpful to build an email list. You know what I mean? So, but I also love the idea of keeping it simple. So, like, how do those pair with these kind of maybe more salesy tactics that people are thinking of, like, oh, how do I get more growth if I'm not, super famous on Instagram or something?
Right. I just think it's again, just I'm always like you probably get like a bunch of different answers interviewing people and asking, but I'm such a practical person. Like I just think of when was the last time that I organically clicked follow on an Instagram account that was just constantly trying to market t-shirts to me. I don't know if that was
Mm,
ever. Right. So then who am I to think I'm going to do that to somebody else?
sure.
Also, like we know Instagram is not making money off giving us free organic reach when we're trying to take people off of their platform to somewhere else to
Right.
buy something. So it's just like what let's be realistic here. This is where it's like to me the easiest approach and a logical approach is to I say occupy online real estate on the marketplaces people are comfortable buying on. So how about we get started on Amazon, Etsy, Walmart? You know what I mean? I've been doing Walmart since like January of last year. I really like that as an opportunity. They all rank well on Google. So whether someone goes to Google and types in your product that you're selling and then clicks your link to go to Walmart, or they can go straight to Walmart, type in the search bar there. Just give yourself as many chances as possible to be discovered, right? Like think of it's if you were just, you hit the reset button in your brain, right? And you go back to like brass tacks, the most basics. Like, how does somebody buy something? Well, they need to know it exists. Then they need to be able to purchase it, right? So if you
Right.
started your own website, but it didn't have like a payment processing back end, you're screwed anyways, right? So that's
Yeah.
why people lean towards like Shopify and stuff, Squarespace, etc. Right? So just check these boxes off in your head. Like, dude, I used to just have random like thoughts in my head, like, man, if somebody wanted to give me $1 million today, how hard am I making it on them to do that? You know what I mean? Like, I just would think of random stuff like that. Like, how hard am I making it for my dreams to be realized? Like, have I,
Interesting.
put stuff out there to allow it to happen, and then you just kind of just keep chipping away every day,
Yeah.
like these little mantras in my head, man. Like, I had one that was literally just learn to love it. Like, learn to love what you're doing that's going to set you free down the line. Like, I never
Mm.
lost sight of the fact that those businesses I started, businesses, passive income streams, whatever we're calling them, you know what I mean? I never lost sight of the fact that, like, not number one, they're not all going to work. And if they don't, it's okay. Like, learning
Mm.
experience, pivot
Mm.
to something else. But number two, like, as long as they really are passive, like, they can build while I also continue to add to them, And one thing I was going to say earlier, man, was just like get good at like at least one thing and then just figure out all the ways to monetize it. Like, I used to
Yeah.
worked as a web developer, 9 to 5, taught web development, had a web development company. So I had people that would just pay me on the side to make their websites,
Yep.
host their websites. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And then I had my own website. So I had my own Google AdSense running on those websites. And it was like, that's 5 different ways I monetize one skill set. So just do that for whatever it is that you're good at. I started POD and now I have a YouTube channel talking about it. And I teach it while also running the business, and like simple stuff, simple stuff. We're not
Yeah.
talking private jet money, but we're out here doing pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get it. I get it. I think, by the way, learn to love it sounds like a great t-shirt. I think if you made one, I would probably get it because that's such a great mantra. Like simple mantras like that. Like my brother and I teach drums, and one we always just use just be better. Like it's simple, and it's like, what do you mean? And it's just you have to do it. Like it's almost like Nike-esque. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, but a different kind of Nike-esque. So yeah, maybe you should explore Ryan's merch, learn to love it, or something like that. I think what we're tapping into here is a principle I really like. I learned from Sean Cannell. It's not new. It's not like not anything new, but it's called reverse engineer, right? So we want to reverse engineer, and that's what you hit on. I was like, oh, that's what he's talking about, because you said if you put up this shop but you have no way to like collect money, you're screwed. So what you have to do is find the end result. What does the end result look like? What does that want to be? And then you have to go backwards. So if it's me making a YouTube video, I have to do the same thing. I have to reverse engineer. What is the goal that I would want a user to learn or achieve from this video? What's going to be the most effective way for me to do that, to film it? And then what does it look like? What do I title it? So you work backwards from the goal. So if it's something in the e-commerce world or the business or print, I was going to say printify, print on demand, you have to think about what is the end result. So like, is it getting traffic to your website? Okay, how do you make that happen? Is it easy for someone to do that? Is it getting more views and sales on Etsy? Okay, how would you do that? And then you work back from there. I think a lot of people, and this is probably the biggest error, is like, oh my gosh, it's so easy, that's so easy, everyone could do it, I'm going to start it. And then they just start it, and it's like you didn't think of a result, and so now you just have all of this stuff, and it's like not for anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, man. And I was just thinking as you were talking about how, like you just said, maybe perspectives are misaligned. Like, you may
Right.
go into the business thinking like, I'm going to sell this shirt, and it may be a design that nobody likes except you, right?
Right.
And it's like the way that I'm successful is I'll do what I say, occupy online real estate on all these major marketplaces, and I'm collecting data.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
literally when something sells, I'm like, okay, what about this? Was it the niche? Was it how I designed it? The colors, the product type? I don't know, right? Like, why did they buy this? Now I have this data about they like this design enough. Maybe I need to go and make 10 more designs in the same niche if I want to run ads. You know what I mean? If
Mm.
you're on the major e-commerce marketplaces, I don't think advertising is required to succeed, but there's certainly times where it makes sense to advertise, right? And then obviously the longer you've been doing stuff, man, you get better at design. Apps like Kittl are helping you make really good designs, you know what I mean? And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, like for instance, if you are going to slow down and make like a really good design, right? Because you can design really quickly. I'm famous for my text only designs that are super easy and
There you
quick to
go.
make.
There you go. Yeah.
But if you make like a really good design, well, hey, that's a strong candidate to set up an ad for, to make sure people are seeing
Right.
it. It's not just buried on page 2 of search results because, hey, you invested that time, And so it's all like very fluid, right?
Yeah. And I like the way that you put it, because it's very similar to how, Heather or Lizzie or Scott or these other kind of, I'm thinking specifically of Etsy, but it's the point is similar here is, yeah, if you believe that you have, an absolute heavy hitter, then hey, that's probably, a good idea to run ads on. Not everything in the million, products or whatever ideas that you have, probably not. That'd be a crazy amount of money. But like if you have these kind of consistent selling things or these trending things that work for you and they work well, and you, like you said, slow down, you make this really just heavy hitter, this banger of a t-shirt, hey, that might be a good idea to run ads on, because like you said, it could be quite niche and it could be, on page 2, page 3, page 4, it could be kind of buried, but the ads will give it a little bit of help. And so that's good, because I did have a question. It's like, when is it a good idea to start? And I think this is a much better approach, because I think when people ask that question, when should I start ads? They've already like put in their brain, like, I will have to run ads at some time. And so they're just thinking like on off, as opposed to like, well, let's just look at data first and then say like, is this something I should run ads on? Does that kind of sound right to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then there's obviously nuance when it comes to advertising. That's another one of those where I like having my business account and I'm seeing money in and I'm seeing money out. And it's just like the difference there, right? Because with ads, if it's logical to keep spending money on ads because it's making you money, that may be something that just until you've done it, you might not be comfortable doing. Like what if you're spending $10,000 a month, just to pick a number, but in doing that, you're making an extra $2,000. Like you bring in 12,000, right? And that's
Okay.
$2,000 you might not have theoretically had you not been willing to spend the 10, right? And some people may not be comfortable with that, but like,
Right.
and that's not necessarily going to be required. It all depends. It's so fluid. There's so many interesting and fun ways to make money, but it's just like with business, and it's like you grow to become comfortable with that concept, and then you get into like the rabbit hole of, oh, well, I get credit card points every time that $10,000 is spent.
Oh,
So
yeah.
now I'm getting like 2% back, right? Just theoretically, right? 2% you might be getting back, or you might be getting travel miles. Like I have a friend who's like, notorious for he's like the king of travel miles. He travels around the world, business
Right.
class all the time, because he has so much points from spending on like Etsy ads specifically. He's like the king of Etsy ads. And that might get overlooked, but it's real.
Yeah. True. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Maybe the last part of this, the last thing we can talk about is goal setting. Is kind of this third part of the online business experience, or the e-commerce business experience. And what I mean though is setting realistic expectations. We've already like used the private jet example as like kind of a poo-poo example to have as a realistic expectation. Because yeah, I mean, you don't want to be set like, okay, my goal for next month is to make $100,000 a day. I'm just not sure that's realistic. So we want to set things that are achievable. And I want to know like, how do you go about goal setting, and like what can viewers take away when they've started something, they're learning, they're growing, they're trying different things. Like, how do you approach goal setting?
No, I actually really like the question, man. And even when you said $100,000 a day, I mean, there's people that make $100,000 a day, right?
Oh,
There
I'm
are.
sure there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, man, a lot of when I'm talking business, I want to go back to like the grassroots, like base level, and talk like perspective. Cause it's like, well, there are people doing it. So I'm not going to count myself out as being capable of doing it, but
Sure. Yeah.
what's it
Yeah.
going to take, right? Starting a corporation, getting publicly traded, and that is going to be deferred gratification decades down the line, but it's
Right.
possible, right?
Right.
So I think, yeah, like you said, goal setting is absolutely something I think is going to resonate with almost everybody, if not everybody, because what it's really doing is, again, coming back to the mental game, allowing you to quantify progress, right? Like one metric for measuring progress may be money in your bank account, but like there's more to it than just that.
Mm.
I paid somebody $2,500 to teach me how to sell Amazon FBA, which involved a bunch of different moving parts, like imported, like meeting manufacturers, getting my product designed, getting my brand registry, just so many different things. And I paid $2,500 for the information, which
Yeah.
isn't even real, right? Just his time. But that ended up like getting me where I wanted to be. You know what I mean? In some weird way. And like, even if I failed, which fortunately I didn't, but I had that knowledge, and I was like,
Right.
man, I was so proud to have that knowledge. I took a lot of pride in it before I knew I'd be successful. Like if someone ever like, I mean, I'm well connected. I have a lot of friends and stuff, very fortunate friends and family. People want to ask me what I've been up to. I'm going to tell them like with a lot of passion, hey, I learned how to do this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm going to be really successful. and then sometimes people want to talk, sometimes people don't care, but just being that like passionate about the fact that, we're here, we're alive, like we're living, and there's so much opportunity. It's 2024. The opportunity we have is so insane. Go back 20 years ago, it was like a fraction of this, right?
Yeah.
So just, find whatever makes you motivated and go get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't think of a better way to end on this motivational factor, because I feel like if someone's watched to this point, they should be fired up to to go and act on this and do something. But Ryan, I want to give you the floor to talk about anything that's happening in your world just before we sign off here. I know, of course, everyone go check out his YouTube. It's linked down in the description. But what other things maybe do you have coming up, or people should be looking forward to, or yeah, I mean, obviously YouTube's best to find you, but if there's anywhere else, let us know, definitely.
No, thanks, Drew, for the invite to join you again for Coffee with Kittl. Actually, some cool stuff coming up with my YouTube channel. I've made some cool connections, and I had the opportunity to record a course with CNBC that should be going live in February at some point. So if you guys are following me on YouTube or my email list or social media, I'll be sure to promote that. That was a cool experience. They took me out to New York City in December. And then I got another kind of CNBC at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas in early March. So I'm assuming this will be out before then. And I'm going to be a panelist. So talking passive income, you know what I mean? Talking just
That's
like
awesome.
this, which I love doing. So that's going to be awesome. I actually just had a meeting with them before this. So that's fresh on my mind. So if anybody's out in Austin, or you like, South by Southwest, definitely check out my panel. It'll be on like Friday, I think, like March 8th, I believe.
Sweet. Awesome. Ryan, that's super exciting, man. That's amazing to hear. Well, everyone, thanks so much for watching, especially if you watched all the way to this point. If you're not subscribed to both of our channels, that would be very interesting. So please hit the subscribe button. It'll take you 1 second. Hop over to Ryan's channel. Do the same thing. It'll take you 1 second. And let us know down in the comments if you want us to dive deeper into something. That's more videos that Ryan could make, more videos that I can make. If there's something that we hit on that's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, or like, oh, I really want to dive more into this, we would love to know that. I look at all the comments. I respond to every single one of them. So please comment down below, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.